Welcome back to We Still Like Each Other, the podcast. I'm Travis.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this is the podcast where we show that the honeymoon stage can last forever.
Forever and ever.
What's up, baby?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
A little bit tired. How are you?
Just a little?
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. I'm actually pretty pumped.
I just ate a lot of food and I'm like half asleep. Not going to lie.
I'm motivated, probably because I'm stubborn and want to be proved right. But, you know.
What do you mean?
Because I know we were like this close to skipping a week. And I'm just like, I'm great.
Okay.
Trying to prove you wrong.
That's fine. It's going to be a good episode anyway, right?
Yeah. It always is.
Okay.
So how was your week?
It was a tough week for me.
Tough is an understatement.
Yeah.
I feel like, well, you could speak to what you were going through, and I'm going to try and say a lot without saying anything at all, but it was a tough parenting week and a tough marriage week.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was just like getting attacked on both sides. I feel like this week was like the perfect reminder to like why checking in with your partner is important and what could happen when you don't. I wish I could say more, but you know, we try and keep, like, especially when things are fresh, we keep them close, and then maybe once we've like done the work. And
is there anything you could speak on in terms of why it was tough for marriage?
Because you were stressed when it came to the parental stuff, and that stress kind of carried over into our marriage because it was a lot. Like in terms of it was just nonstop for a couple days. A
big mental load.
So I feel like, I don't know if had we checked in, it would have made it better, but it definitely hurt that we weren't checking in.
Yeah. It
was more so we were just kind of like dealing with it. And then for me, at least, I was expecting things to be normal between us. And it was very clear, maybe like by day 3, I was like, yeah, shit ain't regular.
Yeah. I will say that it was a tough week, but I do want to acknowledge that we weren't like coming at each other. Like, although I feel like it affected our marriage in the sense that it was more difficult for us to connect this week, but we weren't like arguing. We weren't taking things out on each other in regards to parenting, right?
Yeah, no.
Because it could sound a little confusing, like if, you know, we were fighting this week.
No, we weren't fighting, but I feel like me and you, we have like a very close bond. And the way we show each other love is like quality time, a lot of physical touch, and just even like we have some pretty deep conversations, and all those things were lacking this week. And like I said, by day 3, I was feeling like, yeah, it's not only that we're having a stressful parenting week, it's kind of carrying over into our marriage. So that kind of made me even more upset about like the parenting stuff that we were dealing with, you know?
Yeah. Another, I think a lesson in all of this also was that you obviously noticed like there was a disconnect, and one of your go-to ways to kind of draw us back together or to find a small moment to connect is humor. And usually, like, obviously, that's what I love about you. A lot of women, when you ask them, what do you look for in a partner? They're like, if he's funny. Like, humor is a big part of our life. But in such a heavy week, it was annoying to me. So, like, it was like we were already just disconnected because of life. And then your humor in an attempt to bring us together was just making me, like, drift further apart. It was just like, oh, like this man is so corny. And it's not that the jokes were corny, is that I wasn't in a space to hear them or to accept them, if that makes sense.
I feel like this has become clear probably because of not even our relationship, but a friendship that we have. And I won't give away too much, but the person was kind of like they felt like my humor was ill-timed at certain points. And I had to reflect on that. I was like, damn, because I feel like that's my go-to.
Yeah.
That's my go-to to like make everything better. I kind of even pride myself on how witty I can be.
Yeah.
You say something like, one of my favorite comedians right now is Andrew Schultz, and he's just like, he hears something and he's
Witty,
going.
yeah.
And I don't think I'm anywhere near that level, but obviously it's, and I don't have no aspirations of being a comedian, but it's just something that's always been there my whole life. I have the gift of gab. So I feel like I'm through that friendship, through our marriage, I'm learning that I need to reel it in at times and find, although it's probably a quality that makes you love me, it could also be harmful.
Yeah. Depending, it's the timing. It's about timing, delivery. Some people are a little bit more sensitive. And you know, I'll be like, oh, you can't take a joke? No. And that's a boundary of mine. Like, I don't find that shit funny. And I could take a joke and I could be jokey, but then there are certain moments that it's not appropriate. And not to just generalize this whole moment and this whole learning moment for us, specifically when we're feeling disconnected because of life. Let's say it's because of an argument or because just shit happening. Reigniting that connection with humor, to me, it doesn't do it. Like, I need something a little bit more intentional, a little bit more genuine. And I feel like in your humor, it was kind of shifting blame on me for our disconnection. Like, you'll kind of be like, so what's going on? Like, what's up? Like, we're not connecting. Like, you wouldn't say those exact words, but it was kind of you jokingly shifting the blame on me for us being a little bit distant this week.
And in my head, that was my joking way of just kind of acknowledging the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And I had no intention of being like, what's up? This is all on you.
But your joke was kind of saying it's all on you. But you're like, no, I'm joking. I don't really mean it. And then since I'm in a sensitive space, it's like he's blaming me, like with all this going on. You know, like it just wasn't the time.
I think, and listen, this is fresh, so we're kind of hashing it out on camera. But I think it's a reminder, not just for us, but for people listening and watching, is that even all these years later, I'm still figuring out the best way to maneuver through our marriage, right?
And it's also, we didn't obviously have a huge fight, right? Maybe you wouldn't turn to a joke if we had a really big fight or an obvious something that happened to push us to have a little bit of disconnection this week. But it's kind of just life. And honestly, it's us failing a little bit at being a little bit more intentional with connecting, right? Because life is always going to happen. It might not be always the same thing. It's not parenting, but one thing in life that's for sure is change and fucking struggle in some way or another, right?
I feel like this week was like a reminder that you just have to be mentally, physically, financially prepared for the unexpected. This week was more so like mentally. And it's just like, you never know what your day's going to bring, what your week's going to bring. No matter how much you plan, it can go off course. And this week that just passed was like, fuck your plans. This is what I got planned for you. And it was rough. And we're at the tail end of it. And, you know, I'm optimistic for tomorrow, but you never know.
Yeah. And the week before that, I was having like stomach issues with coffee, everything. So it's, for me personally, it's been 2 weeks of like not feeling good, physically, emotionally. And then it's caused some disconnection between you and I. And it's just, I'm so looking forward to Monday. Like, it doesn't have to be a Monday for you to have a fresh start, but like, I'm so ready to just have a fresh start tomorrow and use some of the lessons we've learned in the past couple of weeks to just have a better week.
Yeah. So I purposely took off tomorrow, Monday, just to kind of help with that, like set you up for success. You know, obviously selfishly, after a busy weekend, I don't want to like rush back to work. But, the positive of me taking off is that I can help set you up. So, the house is clean. It could probably be a little cleaner. I'll do that. Laundry, just things, or like even something as simple as keeping the baby occupied while you get your morning workout in. And you don't have to like worry about making sure that he's entertained. So, and I feel like if you get that done tomorrow, then Tuesday is going to be like a no-brainer. Wednesday's a no,
It like helped jumpstart my week. And it's crazy that I really need that. Like, I appreciate that. Like, if I woke up tomorrow morning and you were gone from like 3 hours ago and I just had to get Eli ready, I probably would have powered through that and then slumped on the couch for like hours because I'm just so drained. But if you went to work, you kind of would just be in this routine, like work, home. Whereas it would kind of derail my whole fucking week.
Yeah. My hopes is that, with check-ins, or we had a conversation that we want to check in more, and that's even outside of having our marriage meetings. Like just check in, a morning check in, because you said to me that sometimes when I call you like later in the afternoon, it kind of, I don't know, it makes you feel like I'm kind of like pressing you.
Like he'll call me at like 3 and be like, "Did you do this? Did you do that?" And he's not asking like, "Did you do it?" as like a boss, but it gives me like anxiety and it stresses me out. Like if you have all these expectations of things I was supposed to do without us ever talking about like what my plans were for the day, what are the expectations of the day. And
honestly, it's more so for me, it's just small talk. I'm at the office and I mean, you're in the house, like, so I'm just like, what'd you do? Or did you watch TV? Did you watch a new show? Did you get to work out? You do any work for the podcast? And it's not like you should have worked out. You should have done work for the podcast. But I'm not, I get how that can come across. So I feel like checking in the morning and just hearing from you before I even ask, or I don't even have to ask. And that's the point.
Yeah.
It's a check-in, like, and you be like, yeah, I plan on doing this, X, Y, and Z. And
I saw a post, and when we check in, and I think this can apply to all of our relationships with people in general, check-ins or catching up is always about accomplishments, about things getting done, promotion, I don't know, moving to a new apartment, travel plans, anything with your kids. But we don't really check in like, how are you feeling, like emotionally, like are you happy? We need to start, when we have our check-ins, just being a little bit more deep, if that makes sense.
I hear you, but I don't know who we were having a conversation with, but we were talking about work and how people say, you gotta love what you do. And I'm very honest in saying that I don't have to love what I do. I love what the job I do, what it provides financially, and that's enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't need to I don't know. I don't need to be the happiest guy at work in order for me to be fulfilled.
Yeah, but you're fulfilled because having a way to provide for your family is fulfilling for you, right? So I don't mean in the sense of like, oh my God, yes, like hooray, I love clocking in and out, and that's not what I mean. I mean like deeper, not surface level, like, and for you that's enough. You know how sometimes I'd be like, oh, be an entrepreneur, start your business, don't work for anybody. Like that's not what everybody wants. Like some people are genuinely happy with the regular job, with the pension, a 401k, health insurance, and they get to spend weekends, vacations with their family. And that's a well enough happiness for many people. So, I mean, deeper than that, deeper than just your job or what you do. Just checking in with people every now and then when you have the capacity to actually hear the truth.
Yeah. Because that's where I was going to go with next. It's like, sometimes that could be heavy and sometimes you don't want to lay in that. And not even like as the person hearing it, but even as the person sharing. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I packed down. No, actually, I know for a fact there's a lot of stuff I packed down. And I don't know. I just feel like, why?
Not always, but I think it's necessary. I don't think everybody who says, "How are you?" you have to go and tell them exactly how you're feeling.
I always joke at work when people say, "How are you?" I'm like, you want me to go? You better stop asking questions like that. It's always a laugh, right?
But that's different. That's work small talk. But like your genuine relationships with close friends, you know, like you and I, we need to ask, "How are you?" and be more honest more often, you know? And there'll be a time and place, right? It's not like a family dinner and we're going to just dive into all our baggage. But we need to be more intentional about asking.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, we could also be more intentional about asking our partners, like, if they want to hear it right now. Like, we assume that our partners are always 100% available for us.
Like, no matter what, you have to be, almost. It's mandatory.
It's mandatory. It's like a given. And I think we have to set a little bit of boundaries with kind of respecting each other's mental space. Yeah, because it could be heavy. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to deal with it.
I'm curious, though, with that being said. Do you feel like it would be a little weird if you were just ready to unload on me and I was like, I'm not in the mental space to hear that?
No, I think it depends. It's nuances, right? Like, I remember the other day, I was firing off like a bunch of text messages and then you were running late to leave work. And then as soon as you called me, I was like asking you 1,000,001 things. That was bad timing, you know? And I know you hate leaving work late. I think we talked about it. So that could have been better, like, me reading the room a little bit better in that moment. And then even me not liking your responses, if you would have just said, I just had a crazy day at work, like, wait till I get home. That would have been you setting a boundary and then me deciding to honor it or not. You know what I mean? So it depends. Like, obviously, if I'm in crisis and you're available, you know, we're at a part in our relationship that you kind of sacrifice some of your your sanity for your partner.
And that's what I'm getting at, because I although I strongly agree that you should open up the conversation to, like, do you have the capacity to hear what I'm about to unload on you? I feel like it can be a slippery slope in terms of it could probably lead to an argument potentially, where if the person's like, no. Because then what if...
But that's the thing. How could you say, I want to honor your boundaries, but then when you set the boundary, I'm like, oh, I don't like that.
But imagine I always said, yeah, I'm just...
Always, that's different. Then that's not true. That's not true boundary setting. That's you manipulating a tool in our relationship to now ignore me and my issues.
No.
You know, it wouldn't be always. Yeah. You would make the space just in a way that doesn't overwhelm you.
So do you feel like, as someone who is like taking on that load, that you have to practice being open to it, right? Because you can't, it's not an excuse to just say no all the time.
It's not an excuse to just say no all the time. And also, whenever you find a new tool for your relationship, boundary setting even, there needs to be a discussion about this tool being introduced into the relationship, right? Because if you suddenly said, babe, I don't have the space to hear this right now, and then we never even had a discussion that this was a boundary that was going to be in play at some point, it'll feel really weird, right?
Yeah.
And like, where the fuck did this come from? So if you want to set up boundaries, and maybe one of your partners is like me and they're more emotional and maybe have a heavier load when it comes to emotional shit, and it's too much for you, have a conversation about limits, about boundaries, about maybe wanting the ability to say, like, you know, not right now. But that needs to be a discussion before you just do it.
Yeah, I think you were reading a book about a like a technique, and I think it was like a pause button on certain things. Like if you're in the middle, do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I was I was excited. I was like, oh, we could do that. But, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, because I can't just be flying off my pauses.
Yeah.
So that it reminded me of that.
Any tool could be misused. Yeah. Have we used the pause?
No, I think I've just gotten better at accepting that when you need space. Mm-hmm. Still a hard pill to swallow.
So I've been using the pause.
Yeah, I guess you have in a way. It just reminds me of you needing some time. Mm-hmm. I still kind of feel the same way that I did before, where I don't fully get it, but usually the outcome is that we get back to each other sooner rather than me like nagging.
Yeah. And I also think the pause might, like the other, I was just thinking you could have use the pause technique the other day when we got into that argument. What was it about? I think we were like getting ready, remember?
Remind me.
What we were getting ready for when we had to go meet with someone. Damn, I'm trying not to give away.
Today?
No. It was about you telling me, all right, babe, go get ready when I grabbed my phone. Remember that? And then I got kind of like real snappy with you. And I'm like, you could have used it then, but I was already so triggered and agitated that had you used it, it would have just made me more tight. Like,
yeah, we had a conversation about that. And, I still stand true on what I said, but basically I feel like you could have been annoyed in that moment or felt away, but it's how you express that.
Yeah.
And
so what I've been learning in all my readings and stuff as of late is like, we're going to be triggered. We're never going to be able to 100% get rid of our triggers, right? It's about how we respond in our behaviors. So yeah, I was pissed off and upset and maybe I had every reason to be. That still doesn't give me the right to just behave in any way that I fucking want.
No, it's true. I mean, it's listen, I don't know if it's the healthiest way to approach things, but I always say to you, like, you want to be cool? We cool. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's like even big shit. I'm like, we could be cool.
Yeah. And he would be like, let's just forget it ever happened. We don't even have to discuss it. Like, we could be cool again. And I'm like, nah, that's not healthy.
I know that's not healthy, especially in doing this podcast. I know for a fact it's not healthy. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, it kind of like it's like a stab to the stomach when you like react in a manner that that's not the person that I love. Mm-hmm. It just kind of like blindsides me sometimes because I'm never expecting it because it's not you. It's not the you. You don't show that side of you.
It's the triggered me.
It's the triggered you. So when it happens, it's just like, oh, fuck.
Like, I can't believe she's here.
I never go that deep. I'm never like, I need to go pack a suitcase.
No.
But it does like it always blindsides me.
Yeah. I think we kind of in our own way use the pause because it's never prolonged.
Yeah, we don't keep it going.
It's not like, oh, that trigger side of you is out. I'm gonna poke it and make it worse and make you feel like shit about it. Because then, well, imagine what will happen.
But in my head, I want to, like in my head, I always have a quick reaction to a way that you reacted. And I know it's going to do something.
Because if you say it.
But in my, and I quickly, just like I say, I'm witty. Mm-hmm. That can go towards negative things too, like poking the bear. So yeah, I mean, I think we're together for a reason. Yeah. Because if I didn't have this personality, we wouldn't have lasted this long. And I don't see us like going to the end of our lifetime.
And I wouldn't have seen all the growth that I've been able to do in this relationship had you been an agitator, an instigator. Like, you don't, how do I say it? Like, you don't add fuel to the fire when I'm triggered. And that's allowed me a lot of space to like grow and heal as a person.
Yeah.
That was like a long
intro.
I didn't there's something we obviously have to talk about, like mention what's going on in Memphis. The murder of Tyree Nichols. And I've thought about this, and it's honestly, it kept me up the other night. This isn't a current events podcast, right? However, I don't want to be, what's the word? I don't want to ignore major events like this. However, I also want this to be a safe space, a comfortable space, and I want to acknowledge it without diving too deep into the trauma. Obviously, if you know us, you know how we feel about this.
Before you continue, I think what I've been noticing about this particular case is that usually there's like a divide. There's always like, but they shouldn't have done this, or they shouldn't. And from what I've seen, and I just search on social media, Twitter, whatever, and I feel like both sides,
everyone's like, "What the fuck happened?"
They agree that this was fucked up,
horrible. Yeah.
So I think that's very telling to how like disgusting this was. That both sides, like, they could they'll reach for the smallest detail. I'm like, see, that's why they deserved it. But I'm not seeing any of that. So, man, it's
very telling.
Yeah.
I will say that, very happy that the officers were charged really fast. I guess something I want to talk about, like, I bet you 1,000,001 podcasts this week are talking about it. The news is talking about it. It's all online. But I want to talk about how we set boundaries for ourselves with the trauma we want to watch online. Like, I know for me, the first coverage that I saw was the arrest of the 5 officers. And I instantly said, I don't want to watch the video. And there was, like, for this release of the video of what happened to him, it was like a tomorrow at 8 p.m. I don't know, like, it was like an event. Like, if it was the Super Bowl, like, well, I'm like, what the hell is going on?
So if I'm not mistaken, like, they announced the time kind of like to prepare people. So in the city where it happened, the businesses were boarding up because they're expecting that protests aren't going to be that peaceful because of how egregious it was.
Okay.
So I think they couldn't just drop it, because then it kind of, not that the video deserves
They were
riots.
Anticipating the backlash once people saw it. So
if you could prepare people, businesses, like, that's the facts. Like, look at things that happened during quarantine.
Yeah. And I know you know how I am. Like, I with age, like, I don't really like watching like traumatic videos, like when people are getting physically hurt. Like, I don't like that shit. Like, when we were younger, World Star was like a big thing of people fighting, and like even those videos would trigger me, like, kind of in a sense, I would have a fight or flight like response within my body, like that feeling of like being uncomfortable. And as I get older, it's worse. Like, I can't stomach it. When George Floyd died, like, as soon as the video, it was like an 8-minute video pretty much. I watched maybe 30 seconds of it. Like, I can't watch that. This time I knew I didn't want to watch it, but I noticed that it still fucked with me, just in like the language of people talking about it, even you. Like, I know when you first watched it, you even just kind of verbalized what was happening, and even that made me feel uncomfortable. Like, even just describing what happened in the video was just like, oh, like it fucked with me. Like, it kept me up at night. So I think we all need to honor our sensitivity to trauma and set boundaries. This week at work, everyone's gonna want to talk about it. Let your coworkers know, like, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. And that's okay. So if you wanted a more in-depth conversation about it, like, I don't have it in me. It's like too much for me, honestly.
But I think acknowledging it is like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's having an effect on us in our personal lives is also very telling.
Yeah.
Because, the facts are, there's sad news every single hour, all across the globe. But then sometimes there's that one thing that happens that kind of like really fucks with you, and this is one of those things.
Yeah, and I think it's also that it seems like that could have been me, that could have been my husband, that could have been my brother, that could have been my friend, you know. I've had conversations with a really good friend of mine about how they have a big fear of like their husband driving while black, and that shit is real. So I think that's another reason why it hurts so much, because it's just that feeling of like that could have been any of us. One other point that I did want to make is that the officers all have families that are all impacted by this too. Like, we got to carry ourselves in a way that our families are going to be proud of us.
Yeah. I feel like they're very short-sighted in whatever they were trying to accomplish. The sadder truth is this is probably not the first time. This is just the first time someone's passed away. Mm-hmm. I hope that this leads into an investigation into previous arrests and how those arrests may have gone. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah. I feel really sorry for their families, honestly.
Yeah.
Did you know, babe?
Yeah, I want to lighten up the mood. This is a good one. And my phone's not unlocking. Okay. Did you know? Did you know that in 16th century France, women could charge their husbands with impotence as a reason for divorce? The convicted husbands would have to prove themselves in a public trial through successfully ejaculating.
Oh my God. You know what though? In this day and age, that's fucked up. But when I always go back to evolutionary psychology, the whole purpose of like finding a mate is to reproduce. So if your partner can't do that one simple thing of life, then yeah, you get a divorce.
So let's say
knock on wood, okay.
Knock on wood. Your boy's boy wasn't doing his thing anymore.
Mm-hmm. We just go to the doctor, figure out.
What if it wasn't working?
Like never?
Never.
Toys.
Okay. So you down for the cause?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't leave you for that.
Okay.
Baby, like that's nothing. Like you could like knock on wood, like literally be a paraplegic. I wouldn't leave you. That's nothing. We make it work, baby.
All right. I don't know if every woman feels the same.
Yeah, I know. But for me, honestly, remember we were talking about everything I have with you, and if I focus on one issue,
like the lack of dick,
like I think everything else still is
makes up
not
for it.
Worth losing.
Yeah. I love having sex with you. But I also feel like it's the cherry on top. It's not the core.
I feel like it's more than the cherry on top for us.
You think so?
Like it's a pretty, like I feel like even if something happened that we physically couldn't have sex, we would probably put a lot of effort into finding a way to fulfill that part of our marriage.
I don't know. It just sounds like you're saying like it's like a major part.
I think it is. Like if I just suddenly had no sex drive and we hadn't explored any reason, like would you be okay with
No.
just being?
But if there was a reason, I would accept it, and
we would accept it, but we would find a way to fill that void, like somehow. Like if it's a hormonal thing, we would like, what hormone this bitch need? Like, you know, if it's you need Viagra, we'll get it. If there's no Viagra, if it's just done, we do get toys. Like I feel like we would fix it. We would figure it out. Like we wouldn't just be like, all right, like sex could be. We don't need a cherry on this Sunday.
Okay, so the reason I said that bullshit is because like we spoke about in the beginning of this episode, last week was tough.
Yeah,
we didn't have sex.
Mm-hmm. In 1 week.
Ooh. So in my head, I'm like, I could do that. Like,
yeah, right.
And then last night we had sex, and I was like, man, I love it here. Like it was a reminder of what I love.
Mm-hmm. That's how you know it was a bad week. A whole week.
The whole.
Was it a whole week? I wasn't counting. I was stressed.
I was,
but it felt like a week.
I mean, if I was counting, it would have. It probably was a week.
Was it like exactly a week to the
like
day?
a business week.
Like 5 days.
Like six.
I honestly didn't count exactly. I was too stressed out to count.
Yeah.
But I felt the disconnect.
I almost did it myself.
Did you? Are you lying right now?
No, I almost did. I just had no energy to forgot where you went. But I was home alone.
Where the fuck was I?
Can't remember. It was just the other day. And I thought about it, but I didn't.
Oh, I know where I was. The doctor with the kids?
Oh, yeah.
You ain't shit.
Yeah, the doctor with the kids. I was like, I could pull up a old trusty video right now. Yeah, it was
one of our own videos or like a porn video?
Porn video.
Okay.
You look at our old videos?
I feel like we have sex often enough that I never like crave to watch it. I feel like if we ever make a video, I kind of watch it within that week, like just randomly, like I'll remember that I have it. But like for me to go back to an old video, like rarely ever happens.
I feel like that's a good question for our community.
Like do you watch?
Or no, do you even make
them?
And listen, we don't do it often, but every once in a while.
And we also don't like plan to record.
No, it's literally like I'll catch myself in the mirror like, yo, I'm kind of killing this right now. I'm like, baby, I'll pass your phone real quick. And I'll record, and then she has it on her phone. And I always make sure she puts it in her hidden folder. That's the worst thing.
Oh my God, baby, you gotta safety my phone now. I'm about to get hacked.
I think we look good. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Well, it comes
we
out,
leak some fire nudes.
You know, OnlyFans coming soon.
I guess on the topic of love and love making, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing some new We Still Like Each Other merch. It is our Valentine's Day drop.
Yes, baby, move the microphone real quick so everybody can see it. Look, doom, doom. Okay, fire. And then there's a back. Yeah,
we'll show y'all the back on social media.
Yeah, so the back says,
the honeymoon stage never.
Oh, no. My God.
Sorry, the honeymoon stage lasts. Sorry. The honeymoon stage lasts forever.
The honeymoon stage can last forever.
Can last forever. And
forever and ever. Like we say in the intro every time.
It's the intro.
And you messed it up.
I always say my part. You say yours. So
I just say forever and ever.
All right, baby.
Come on, bro. I would throw the alley-oop to you and you failed.
Focus. Valentine's Day. So we have a whole, like a little mini collection dropping. So we have this shirt.
It's a long sleeve
red shirt. The logo's fire. The back is fire. We're dropping a tote bag, very limited. And the cherry on top.
The cherry on top. I think my favorite part of the drop.
My lovely wife designed a Valentine's Day card.
Yes.
And it's fire.
You could get it for your boo.
Yeah.
You know what I love about it? When's the last time you bought me a card?
Sheesh.
Exactly. I feel like we need to remember the small things. So if you've been with your partner for a while, I saw someone on someone on Instagram or TikTok have a reel or whatever of like, oh, me on my way to ask my wife to be my Valentine for the 9th year in a row. And I don't think you have to necessarily ask, can you be my Valentine? But I think we should do those small, cute things that we did in the beginning, like get a card and write something sweet. If their favorite chocolate, flowers. I think flowers get really expensive on Valentine's Day. So have a discussion with your partner, like what the expectations are. But as something as simple as a card, do it again.
Stay in, cook dinner, buy a nice bottle.
Or celebrate like the weekend before or the weekend after.
Don't get caught up in the hoopla of Valentine's Day and blow a bag on a normal, I don't even know what day.
But get a Valentine's Day card from us. Or a t-shirt or a tote bag.
We still like each other. But it's not, I mean, I don't think we finalized pricing, but I know it's not going to be crazy.
Yeah. And I think it's also dope, like if you or your partner are real fans of the show and this is part of your Valentine's Day gift, like I think it's pretty dope. It'd
be funny if like someone's watching this without their partner and they're like, fuck, I got to make sure they don't watch this episode.
Oh, because they want it's a surprise.
So as of now, the drop is going to be this Tuesday. What's Tuesday's date?
the 31st. Is there 31 days in January?
I believe so. Yep. Tuesday, the 31st at 12 p.m.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the shirt, a tote, and the card. Just add all 3 to cart and check out.
Yeah. I think we're going to start doing 2 items and you get free shipping.
Yeah.
2 items and you get free shipping. So that'll be dope. We do still have a few sizes left in our previous drop and we could ship them together. Yeah. Super exciting stuff.
And I just want to say, if you're on the fence, I just want you to know this is no cap. These are limited. So don't hesitate.
Yeah, since it's a Valentine's Day drop, we didn't get as much as we did as our first drop because we're like, people are probably going to shop for Valentine's Day this first week we release and that's it. So if you like something, just don't hesitate. Go to our site Tuesday and buy it. All right. So we've been talking for a long time and I don't want to jump into like any topics. I think this episode has felt very like organic and cool. So I did have some questions here that we can ask each other.
Okay.
We could take turns, but we could also both answer the same question.
Okay.
They're from this card game called The And it's like it helps you get deeper into your different relationships.
Was this the one gifted to us?
This was gifted to us by Jojo and Dyra.
And we had our weekly recap and we didn't talk about how our friends, our family, Jojo and Dyra came over for dinner.
Yeah, they were here Saturday night for dinner. But they actually gifted this to us like months ago. And this deck specifically is about people who've been in long-term relationships. Okay. So I just pulled out a few cards that I thought would be cool for us to talk about. Did you look
at what the question was?
I did look at the questions. I think, in the spirit of Valentine's Day coming, our Valentine's Day drop, we could get a little deep with these questions. Okay. So, yeah, you can read them.
Okay. I'll just pick a random one.
Pick a random one.
All right. Here we go. What have you learned about love through me?
Ooh. So you want me to answer first?
Go for it.
What have I learned about love? I've learned that love isn't enough to sustain a relationship. I've learned that love is beautiful. Like, I think in the non-toxic way, like I'm addicted to love and I love being in love. But because of that, I know that I have to work really hard to keep it. Like, love isn't the only thing that's going to keep us together. If love has forced me to like just be a better version of myself, as corny as it sounds, but like your girl's kind of toxic sometimes. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
Yeah, I think my answer is pretty similar to yours.
See, we have to alternate who answers first because then you're going to just piggyback off my answer.
It's true though. I'm going to love you as long as I'm alive on this earth. There's not much that could change it. I feel like we've established our love. It's set in stone. It's all the extra stuff that outside of the love that's you don't think about. It's not the stuff that they show you in like romantic comedies and stuff. It's why we started this podcast. As cheesy as all is, she picked the questions, guys. But my like for you is what's more important. So I think that's what I've learned. And
I love that because like obviously it's in our name. Like we still like each other. Do we enjoy being around each other? Are we happy to have space, or are we like happy to get back together,
And my answer kind of reminds me of like, think of every like long-term relationship, even like outside of your own, and every time they break up, you always ask them like, you ever see yourself going back with them? And I feel like every person says, I'll always love them, but we can't be together. And that's like the reminder for you that love isn't enough. Like, how many people do you still love? Like, there's people in my life that I don't even talk to. I always have love for them. And I know you could get caught up in like having love, being in love, whatever. I get that. But do I want to be around that person? And that's not just romantic.
Yep.
So yeah, we still like each other. Very on brand. You could ask the next question so I don't.
Okay. What mistake do you see me make repeatedly, and why do you think I do it? Ooh.
Damn. I don't know why you do it. I think just the goals you set for yourselves and not following through. Like we start off the week with like all these things we want to get done. I'm going to do this on Monday, this on Tuesday. And then by Wednesday, it's just like you're a couch potato. Why? I think like mentally it weighs really heavy on you, the goals that you set for yourself. So it's just like, for me, I'm always just like, just do it. And for you, it's more than, it's like lifting a cinder block to get on that Peloton. Like it's just like so heavy. And I know there's things I don't fully understand just about like mental barriers you have going on. So I don't feel like I'm fully prepared to answer, but I think that's something I notice that comes up a lot. You set a goal for yourself, and not just like we're working out, but like even like phone time. You're like, this week I'm gonna do this, and then you're caught up in the algorithm, and then you're scrolling, and so, and I know it weighs heavy on you, like when you even catch yourself doing it. But like we've always said, being aware of your problem isn't enough.
To speak to like, you're like, just do it. I think for me is that it's so hard for me to think of that one task because I think of like the bigger picture. So like, I'm like, if I pushed my schedule back an hour, it's like, okay, I could just pick up where I left off. I'm like, no, but then it's going to push everything else back an hour, and then this and or that, or the baby's going to need X, Y, and Z. Like I make one little problem into like a huge ass problem. So that's definitely something I need to work on. And the past 2 weeks, like we're working out, it's been a shitty couple weeks. Like I was sick physically, like figuring out what the fuck I'm allergic to. I don't know. My body was like rejecting shit. Then this week just with lifing, right? And then yes, it's heavy, and I use that as my excuse to like fall off my routines, but I need to have that discipline to just be like, shit's gonna happen every week. If I allow life to stop me from taking care of myself, like what the fuck am I even doing? So yeah, definitely I have to just be more disciplined, honestly. It's not motivation, it's discipline.
And I think for me, I just see how happy you are once you do get it done. And I just want that for you all the time. So when I'm saying like, just do it, it's in the back of my head. I'm like, I just know if she just completes this 30-minute ride and gets her stretch in, like she's going to be in a totally different zone. I just know it. But I understand that there's just certain things that saying just do it isn't going to accomplish.
I always think about, if you guys watch Euphoria, Rue is like depressed, right? And in her depression, there's a scene where they show that she just doesn't go to the bathroom. And her stomach starts to hurt, like she has to pee so bad. And we all like, just go pee. You'll feel better. But it's just she can't. Like she just cannot get out her fucking bed to just go pee, and it becomes a bigger ordeal. She has to go to the hospital. It's like this whole thing.
She had a UTI, right?
It was terrible just because she didn't go pee, right? But she was in such a depressive state that something as simple as just going to pee was just impossible to do. Yeah. So sometimes when I'm like in my feelings and it's just like, just do it. It's like, I would if I could. Like I literally cannot. Like mentally, emotionally, like I can't do it. Yeah. And I know I don't think I've ever like used the word on the show, but you know, I have mentioned being in therapy and stuff and having a baby, and like it's hard to admit it or like say it, but I guess probably postpartum. Like that's what's happening, and it's just like so taboo to say it and verbalize it. Like even me now saying it, I'm looking all around, I'm like uncomfortable with the fact that I even just said it, but accepting that I think is part of it.
Yeah, and I think even you saying it is also normalizing it, because it's happening to a lot of women. And a lot of women are just like powering through it because they see it as a sign of weakness, where it's just natural. And I feel like I'm more so grateful that we live in a time where we have a name for it. Right. And it's not just like, yeah, she's just never been the same since the baby. You know? Like, and that was a thing. So yeah.
I gotta answer it now.
Take a deep breath.
What mistake do you see me make repeatedly, and why do you think I do it? I don't know. I feel like I don't really see you make a mistake repeatedly.
I'm perfect. Let's go on. Next.
No. I think just being more intentional with the kids. I feel like I always say the same thing for you. And not that you're not a great dad or that you're not there for whatever I need or say that I need, but sometimes I don't want you to wait for me to say things.
Act without direction.
Like, take initiative with the kids. Like, I don't know, just plan stuff, do stuff, buy stuff, like something that you think of for the kids. So I don't know if that's a mistake you're making, but it's like a concern that I've mentioned over and over, I guess. Why do I think you do it? I think you're very dependent on me doing it. So you're just like, the kids are good. Maybe. And two, because you have always been such a low maintenance like child, I guess. Like, you were cool just hanging out in your room. I don't know. To me, I think you're like, I'm low maintenance in general. So like, the kids are fine. They don't need anything else. What do you think about my interpretation of that?
Are you more so referring to like necessities, like in terms of like pajamas, or like we just River needed some pajamas this week? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean like sharing joy?
That too, but also like just things like, if you're like I told you about Mr. Beast Burger being in the American Dream Mall, and like that would be a cool idea for Eli's birthday. I don't think you've ever like thought of like something, an event, a place, and been like, Eli would enjoy this, River would enjoy this.
Well, River's one.
I know, but I'm just saying both.
I don't feel like it's worth like giving examples, because it's not enough to say that it's consistent. So I acknowledge.
But do you get what I'm saying?
No, yeah. I don't want to combat it with like the handful of times I have, because it's not, I don't think it's consistent enough to say that it's not an issue.
Okay.
So
and that's the thing, because it's one of those things, like, it's not that it's a problem. It's more so like I don't know. It does add to my invisible load if I'm the only one that ever planned stuff for the kids.
I got you.
All right, go ahead.
What is the next chapter in our relationship?
Ooh.
First, what is it called?
What is it called? It
says, what is the next chapter in our relationship? But every chapter has a title.
A title? Ooh. Honestly, I feel like the title will be discipline. Because I feel like we have so many tools. So this is our, like,
when we start whipping each other?
No, it's like when we actually stick to our plans and our goals and hold each other accountable in ways that are healthy, right? And you talked about checking in. And I think one of the reasons it's hard for us to hold each other accountable is because we only do it once we've already failed at a task versus helping each other along the way, right? So like, I don't know, what's an example? Like when you call me at 3 p.m. asking about everything I did during the day, but we never had a pre-conversation about what the expectations were that day. So like, we need to be more proactive instead of like beating ourselves down when we haven't met a goal. And just being disciplined with all the goals we set, all the structure we want to set for ourselves. Like, do it. Like, stop cutting ourselves short. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think that's good, right?
I don't have one. I'm trying to think of one.
What is the next chapter in our relationship?
I I just feel like I want us to all, like, we have some amazing conversations about things we want to accomplish. And I just want to see that come to fruition.
Discipline.
And it's going to sound like I'm piggybacking, but
it's honestly, if it's the next chapter in our relationship, hopefully we agree on what that next chapter is. So it's not too bad if it's similar.
That's true. Because I feel like we have big goals and we see ourselves doing things a lot differently than our parents, just in terms of, finances and goals for our children, and even the work that we're doing now. Like, this is fun, but we also are motivated by it could be a means to something better.
Yeah. Right now is an expensive hobby. It's not income for us yet.
Yeah. We might as well be painting trains right now. But yeah, I see it being something bigger.
Yeah.
Last one.
Last question.
You go.
What is it that keeps us going strong?
I think that from very early on that we decided that we wanted to be together, and not in like some toxic way that like you're just going to accept bullshit from me and just allow me to like dog you out. But I think, although, we were talking about it yesterday, like episode 1 is our most played and watched episode
because of the drama.
But it's also very true to our start. And I think that where we are now compared to that episode, just in terms of our relationship, our marriage is like night and day. We're not without our issues, but I feel like at our core, we have solidified ourselves as being able to go the marathon. Like, I really truly see us going.
So what keeps us going strong is like that decision that we're gonna do it together. Like, we're end game.
But and I want to be careful in saying that, because it could sound like no matter what,
like, but no, unconditional.
It's not unconditional. It's conditional.
But we were gonna work to make sure we're meeting each other's expectations, honoring each other's boundaries, and staying happy.
Yeah. And shit, I've grown so much, like, even in doing this podcast. Like, the conversations that it's opened up outside of this podcast are like some of the most eye-opening conversations I've had in my life. And it's crazy that all this time in, I'm feeling like we're still digging deeper.
Yeah.
And it's a quality that I love about our marriage.
Yeah, like, look, I didn't even open my laptop today, and we just did a whole podcast.
So yeah, what about you?
What was it again? What keeps us going strong? I think that's what it was, right?
Oh, I think it might be on the bottom.
You mixed it up.
What is it that keeps us going strong?
Yeah, I think all of that you said. I think it's also that we don't sit in conflict. Like, we resolve our conflict pretty quick. And even if it's not resolved quickly, we kind of look at each other and acknowledge that we're going to eventually fix this. Like, let's not waste too much energy in pulling ourselves apart. Like, we'll handle this, but it's you and I against this problem. Like, I've heard of other couples and, we've been fighting for weeks, or like we haven't had sex in months, or like letting problems drag.
Fester.
And I think you and I are very good at like, let's resolve quick, or at least come to the understanding that this is gonna get resolved and we don't have to be miserable right now. We could still be best friends if the marriage has an issue. And I think that's what helps us. Because if we're able to thrive in the fact that we're best friends, the marriage shit is easier to resolve. Because it's like, we were just happy, chilling, kicking it. And you know what? we can fix this. However, that could be tricky, right? Because it could be like, oh, we're cool friends, so we ignore boundaries being crossed in the marriage. Like, that's not what happens. It's just it allows us to fix the issues quicker, come to some form of compromise quicker, because we don't want to lose the friendship, I guess.
I feel like that's an interesting topic, not for today, but just kind of like discussing that, those lines between, like, because at its core, a relationship is a friendship, right? But those lines can get blurry. I feel like that's something I would want to talk about.
It's a friendship and partnership, right? You know how we talk about how sometimes we're starting the camera and we might have just had a disagreement, but we're partners in this podcast. So there's like a role we play in that. We're partners in our parenting. So like if we're bumping heads, we can't allow that to impact how we approach an issue with our children, right? Because then, like, I'm using this as an example. It hasn't happened, but let's say Eli asks us to sleep over someone's house, which he doesn't do. He's 8. But because we had a fight, now we're purposely going to disagree on it and let him see that, well, mommy says yes and daddy's saying no. And people do that and they fuck up their relationships, their parenting because of it. We know how to separate and compartmentalize certain things to just allow us to get over hurdles easier.
Yeah, because we still have to navigate life.
Absolutely.
And this moment is not as big as life.
Exactly. So just because Travis might have annoyed the fuck out of me, I can't allow that to now impact our decision making as parents, financial decisions, right? Because a lot of people do that too. Like, I'm pissed, so I'm gonna buy this bag, or I'm pissed, I'm gonna go book this trip. Like, whoa, don't allow marital conflict to kind of fuck up your lives.
Financial abuse is real. But yeah, I feel like we
almost got into the whole topic.
I feel like
again.
I feel like we could go over those two things maybe in a future episode.
Yeah.
Just to wrap it up, if you are listening on podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, please leave us a 5-star rating.
Yes.
And if it was anything less, we will get you next week. Don't do a thing. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, leave us a comment. We need those comments. We love talking to y'all, letting us know what you think. Tell us what you think of the new merch. Are you going to be copping?
Yes.
Tuesday, 12 p.m. And if you're wanting some extra content from us, patreon.com/we still like each other.
Absolutely.
We have a vlog going up probably tomorrow, Tuesday, the latest, of what we were doing this weekend.
Why I have all this makeup on.
So I was watching some clips earlier. I'm excited to put it together.
I think we mentioned it in the beginning of the episode. Who knows? That was an hour ago.
No, we didn't.
You didn't?
We didn't.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you, my love.
Daddy. Oh, I was about to say peace without saying that I still like you. My bad. Go ahead. Go.
When are the do you still like me t-shirts coming?
Do you still like me? I don't know. On a t-shirt?
Oh, we got to get a little more clever.
I feel like maybe I can make it like a card. We could give it on anniversaries or something.
Well, anyway, baby, do you still like me?
Yes.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.